Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This bill is not about improving legislation. This bill is about hate. It's little more than political gesturing of the worst kind. But it's worse than that. It is pandering to far-right politics, stirring up resentment, fear and division because the system isn't working for them. But this really is the nastiest, most vicious of politics. And we live in an increasingly hostile world. Conflict, climate change, COVID are making life so impossible for many. Innocent families and children fleeing for their lives, driven from their homes and their communities, joining the 30 million refugees worldwide, with little more than the clothes on their back and their hopes and dreams. They flee to protect themselves and their loved ones, but this tragically is a hope that is never usually fulfilled. I recently spoke to a mother who fled drought in South Sudan. She lost her children to thirst and starvation. And I have felt the pain of victims of conflict, the many who have fled Syria, who suffered immeasurable brutality and war crimes at the hands of the Assad regime, hearts broken that they can't return. And I've spoken to women and girls forced into arranged marriages as young children after fleeing a life of violence and abuse, faced sexual assaults, gang rapes, exploitation on the road between camps, homelessness, before finding refuge. And to those who make that perilous journey, this government says, we don't care, and is attempting to build a wall around our shores, using a deliberately and unnecessarily hostile attitude, doesn't tackle the drivers of displacement, which will continue to force the vulnerable to flee, which will aggravate the very threats which make our own lives here at home less secure and make the United Kingdom even more isolated, not just from our own partners, but the values which made us a welcoming nation so many look towards us with hope for. And as this pandemic has shown, our planet is shared, and so too are our successes and our failures. We mustn't forget that the United Kingdom was a co-signatory and the first to ratify, with support of the whole House, the 1951 Refugee Convention for a reason. But rather than be open and inclusive, this government's bill seeks to remove us from those shared challenges, wash our hands of the crises and injustices fuelled by many decisions made at home, and weaken communities' resilience overseas. And it seeks to criminalise refugees. They're not criminals, and seeking safe haven is not a crime. The true crimes are the provisions and the intention at the heart of this heartless bill, putting the UK at odds with decades of agreed consensus on the need to offer safety to the persecuted and stateless. And it would break international law to pick on the poor, to pick on the desperate, and the children put in boats by their parents, so desperate because they see that the sea is safer than the land. And when you strip away the means to safe passage, when you cut international aid, which helps people remain in place, and when you penalise anyone facilitating arrivals, how does the Home Secretary intend for desperate people to arrive? In stark terms, what would it have meant for kinder transport? Would it have turned their backs on the children arriving and fleeing the brutality of Tigray and Yemen today?